Hello, everyone, and welcome to the new episode of the Scholia Show. So today we're going to continue talking about education since we did part one in the previous episode. But before we go and talk about education, we just wanted to start by commenting on the movie Cuties that's going to be streamed on Netflix, and there's this whole controversy about it, and we're going to talk about it, right, Wahib?
Yeah, so the movie Cuties sparked a lot of different reactions from people all over the world, like especially when it shows those like young girls. I'm not sure how old they are.
11.
11.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're really kids, and they were put in. I didn't watch the movie, but just like the front picture that they put as a way of marketing strategy to the movie shows those girls dancing in a sexual way, and that made a lot of people angry. And what's surprising is that it was on Netflix. Netflix is a platform that promotes itself as being liberal and there's like liberal standards and principles all over the world. I'm not sure what you think about it and what you followed about the subject.
Okay, so when I first saw it, I saw the trailer of the movie, and then I saw the poster by Netflix where there were those pre-adolescent girls posing in an adult and a way that sexualizes them. And then I started following up a bit with what are people's thoughts on it and Netflix's reaction to these people's reactions. So apparently people were saying that the movie is not the point of it is not to objectify women or girls or sexualize them or promote pedophilia or anything like that, but it's the opposite. It's to show the danger of hypersexualizing younger girls and adolescents.
But is that the point of the movie? Is that the
That's what they said. I mean, according to the producer, who's a woman, and she, I think, based it on her real experience. And they said that it's actually Netflix's fault because they put that poster and gave like bad publicity to the movie. Whereas like the real poster in French and in Europe, you just see girls running and I think holding shopping bags and stuff. So Netflix apologized, but they only apologized about the poster.
Yeah, they didn't take it down.
Yeah, it's not yet streamed. It's going to be on September. And I personally cannot comment like 100% about the content of the movie since I didn't watch it yet. But based on the trailer, I don't think the problem is only with the poster. Like just changing the poster will fix it. I think even if the point of the movie has good intentions, it actually, like she wanted to show the problem of hypersexualizing girls by sexualizing girls.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's the issue, and in the trailer, it's not only about the poster, because there was this girl who did some gesture that was that looked inappropriate and sexual, and not something 11 years old girl would do. And also there was this part where this girl stole something from her parents, I think, and her friend told her, "Wow, you're so cool." So it's like promoting behaviors that kids shouldn't see, like disobeying parents, stealing, doing adult stuff. And also Netflix, like I think the movie is rated plus 14 years old. So 14 years old can watch this movie, and I don't think it's really appropriate for them.
That's like one of the situations where people sometimes even when you put something that you disagree with, but even like when you publish about it, that's kind of marketing for that thing. Even if the deep content inside is actually against, but when people just see the poster, because a lot of people didn't watch the movie yet, probably some of them didn't watch the trailer yet, so maybe in the content is very cool. It's against, is educational and is against sexualizing girls. It gives a really important and human message. But probably that poster was a really bad idea, because whether we like it or not, people will jump to assumption. You know, they're going to look at the. Some people jump into assumptions, and then some people, they don't necessarily think anything bad about that. So it's, but when you they keep seeing it, you know, it is kind of normalized, you know, which is not, like, because the first human response ever would be like, what the hell is this? Like, these are just girls. But when you see something like for repetitively, you see it like many times, then you start thinking that, oh, that's just a part of how the world is, and like, that's okay in media, and well, it's not okay in media.
Concerning publicity, some people were saying that it's actually the reactions of people that gave more attention to the movie. Like, maybe no one would have heard of it, and since now people are talking about it and there is a petition against it, everyone is commenting about it on social media. It's giving it more publicity and maybe more chances for predators and pedophiles to watch it. But I think, what other option do we have? I mean, you can't just ignore it. You have to say something about it.
Yeah, that's right.
And I also read a comment of this woman who said that she doesn't see anything wrong with it. And it's actually the people who, like, there's this category of people, I don't know if they are the majority or the minority, but there's this category of people who are saying that it's still art and the movie and it has a good message. It's just people are overreacting, and it's only about the poster. And this woman, I think, is one of them. She was saying that the problem is not in the photo, it's or the movie. The problem is in people, because when you see an 11 years old, you're not supposed to think of anything like sexual, but you know, everything was leading to that.
But what if she does something that's sexual?
Exactly.
What if the dance is sexual?
Exactly. So I really don't know how these people think.
Yeah, it's very controversial. So again, coming back to our topic that we said that we're going to talk about in the second part of this episode of the Scholia Show, I thought that we could talk when it comes to education. I thought that it would be cool to talk about the educational system, just how things are set up in university or different schools. And so there is this phenomenon that I noticed when I was at school. It's actually obedience. You know, like, there is this misconception where people just associate a good student with an obedient student. Like, if you follow the rules, if you follow the teacher in every single thing from A, B, C, D to Y, Z, then you're a good student. But if you don't, if you reject, if you disagree, if you, I don't know, miss something to do something else that in your opinion is more important or whatever, then you're a bad student. And so I think that's like a really bad way of judging people. I also watched this video by Noam Chomsky. He said, even when you go to the best universities in the world, maybe in your mind you would think that, oh, in the best universities there exist the smartest people, the most intelligent people ever. But he said, actually, no. There are many intelligent and smart people outside who didn't make it to those universities. What you will find in those universities are just the most obedient students who are really good at following the rules, at being focused well, at doing their assignments, and he said that he thinks it's intentionally built like that, because when we talk about job opportunities or workplaces, we usually don't want someone who make up problems, just someone who has like a revolutionary kind of rebellious mind, who just would like do things differently, who start questioning things. You know, these people are like, they're just troublemakers, even though they could be smart, but they're troublemakers because they're just going to question everything. Maybe they're going to just doubt everything and affect their mates at the workplace. And so he said it's built on purpose that way, just to produce this kind of mentality of like obedience, people who would not cause any trouble in the system, And so I'm really not sure about what you think about that, but I really saw it in Algerian like schools. I really saw that where when someone who's like following the rules really well get like the one of the best marks, and someone who's not. And I'm not saying that someone who doesn't follow the rules who just write whatever, we should give them like A or like really good. But at least there should be a good methodology of like testing people's critical thinking, you know? Like if you say something and you provide good arguments, because there are certain issues that you can't judge 100% that this side is right and this side is wrong. There are many subjects like that. Like for example, I'm trying to think about something like really controversial. Like for example, in philosophy, there is this controversy. Do we think through language? Like, do we need language in order to think, or do we think like without language? Like, are we in need of language? Are we in need to learn language in order to think? But anyway, so there are like two sides, and each side has their own arguments, you know. And so, if you are a teacher, you're not gonna side with anyone. You're just gonna give a good point to someone who argues their position well.
Yeah.
But then you're going to say that, but who's going to judge if someone argues their position well or not? Well, I think that there is,
The arguments used.
Because there are some people who think that logic is also relative. I don't think that logic is relative. I think that we can agree and disagree many things, but when there is something like logical, we should all, like it's not a matter of agree or disagree. Like that's what it is, you know? And so if someone provides like logical arguments, even though the thing that he or she is promoting is false, but you give them a good point. Even if you're against like what they are preaching for. Sometimes you find people who are just good at arguing their position, even though what they are arguing for is something that you're completely against. But they good arguments.
I think it totally depends on the subjects. I don't really remember what was the methodology in philosophy we used in secondary school, but I think it's not only about giving arguments, choosing one side. I think you need to. I think there are different types of methods to use, and you can write one argumentative, but you need to put both sides' arguments. Isn't it that way?
I honestly forgot.
It's not like you choose just one. You put both arguments and write their opinions and so on. But concerning the whole thing, I really think it depends on the level of the students. And by level, I mean if they are in primary school, middle school, secondary school, university, I think there should be different types of obedience. And as you were speaking, I was wondering, what do you think the alternative should be?
I like what Paul Freire said in his book, like The Bank in Education, where he said that the problem is that we treat students as banks and knowledge as money, and so we just make the deposit. You know, we just open the bank and put money inside. And so he said that students are just treated like that. The teacher has the knowledge, they just open their minds and here's the knowledge. Okay, you know how you do 1 + 1 = 2. There are some things that they are just rigid knowledge. For example, how you're going to master a certain skill, you know. But there are other subjects, they are not rigid. You know, there are many ways like how you could do it. But they have their own way and they enforce it on you. And so, for example, when it comes to, I used to remember this like in mathematics, for example, there is the equation. We learned certain equation, how you can get I remember when I was in primary school, I used to do it differently. The teacher shows us a certain equation in order to get a certain conclusion. Like for example, the conclusion is at last is the number 34, you know? And then I don't know, my mind thinks differently, so I do it totally different and I get 34. And then when I start explaining like maybe this is like a better way of counting this, like he doesn't focus on me. Like just do as I told you. And at the end of the day, like a lesson is learned. She doesn't wanna.
For example, instead of doing 30 + 4 = 34, you do, I don't know, 50 minus 6
Yeah, but it's
equals
usually more
34.
complicated than that. It's usually more complicated than that. You know, remember like when we have like this someone bought something and then sold something and then we got something, you know, like that. And then how you're going to count how, I don't know, how much orange is left like in his pocket. And so we used like to count things differently. But that's just mathematics. But there are also many, many other topics in which when I studied in Sweden, what I like the most is that they have this methodology where they try to design activities where students reach the conclusions by themselves, reach the conclusion of the lessons. They reach a lesson by themselves. It's like, for example, that's actually a methodology that you can find it in like in every context, in many, many contexts. Like, for example, instead of like I have a lesson about greed, that greed is bad. You know, instead of telling you that greed is bad and you start preaching and then you lose focus or whatever, you're like, whatever, boring. You know, I try to design an activity where at last you learn by yourself that greed is bad. You know?
Yeah.
We also had that in the US where for example, they split us in two groups, group A and group B. And then there is like tribe A and tribe B. And then they give us a language. When you say hi, you do this. You know, when you say let's go, you do this. And then they explained to us all that. And then they went to the second tribe and they also gave them another language. And then they made us like meet each other and start doing things like that. You know, and no one knows. Like the first tribe cannot understand the second tribe. The second tribe cannot understand the first tribe. And then at last, they said, like, what do we think? And then what we started doing is actually criticizing their own language. We're like, what the hell is this? I mean, that's really dumb. What are you doing? And then he was writing all the stereotypes that we had in mind about the second tribe. Like, they are dumb. They don't have a complex like language. And we basically felt comfort in teasing the other group and just like feeling stronger together, like it's our group. And then at the end, the teacher looked at us and he was like, you see, you all told us like different stereotypes about each other, but don't you think that all the stereotypes were negative? Like, even though, like, that's not really you. Like, we are the ones who gave them like all this language, and each one, like the group, tried to criticize the other group, make fun of them, and support their own kind. And then he was like, that's exactly what happens like outside.
Yeah.
Where people, they have their own race and then they support their own race and they criticize the other race. And I really love that. That's like an activity where you learn something by doing. You know, that needs a lot of work. It's kind of complicated a little bit, but I think that it's definitely worth it. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I think just as you said, it needs lots of work. I think teachers need creativity and time to prepare.
And, you know, teachers, maybe just like the whole board of teachers who are on top and
Yeah.
they give assignments. You don't need every teacher to be creative. Creativity is, by the way, something very rare. Like according to psychologists, it's a rare.
Then it's in the system, like, because teachers have to follow the books.
Yeah.
It's easier to follow the book than each night prepare activities for different classes or make your own activities. So I think that's the obstacle. But if the whole educational system creates different methodologies, that would be better.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I think that there should be some space. I remember we also had some English teachers, French teachers, especially science teachers. They really loved to have more space so that they can do whatever they want. They can like teach in their own way. They're always like, there is a very interesting video on YouTube that you can all watch, but I want to watch it as a class. So I'll try to spare some time at the end of the lesson and bring in my data shoe and just show it to all students. And it used to be interesting.
Didn't you notice that teachers in private schools, especially languages, they teach better than in schools?
That's right.
Like, they have different activities.
But it's not only
they make
about
you watch.
space. That's not only about space. I met a teacher who said, like, who was teaching in private school, and she said that she wished she had more space. She would like do movies inside the school, but she couldn't do all that. I don't think that's the reason, because of space. I think the reason private schools, like, they teach better is because instead of students, they're just clients. They're clients, and you need to make the client happy.
Yeah, well, I didn't say the problem was space. I mean, that was your own argument, and you gave the counter argument to it.
That's just my assumption. That's what you were going to say.
No, I was going to say that I don't know. Probably, like you said, it's the client, or maybe it depends on the private school. Maybe the manager of the school suggests those ideas. But I think it's more fun to study a language in private schools. Certain private schools, because the teachers have more activities, if you have more time or the equipment, maybe you can't watch a movie, but the teacher tells you to watch a movie, and then you watch half of it or part of it, and then you make comments about it. I studied in a private school Spanish, and it was really, really so cool. Even though it was nice in secondary school, but in the private school it was on a whole different level. I mean, the types of activities that we did, and I think it also has to do with limitations. I mean, in some public schools, if the director or someone from the administration is walking by a classroom and they hear music, they might not like that. If the teacher is using songs to teach, it's not like in a private school they have their own rules. So I think that plays a role in it too.
Yeah, I totally agree.
But for obedience, I think obedience is important to a certain level. As I said, depends on the level of the students. For primary school, I think it's really important.
Yeah, I mean, when you go teach in primary school and then all students are just like playing around and doing, and they are not going to listen to whatever you're going to say, like, of course it's a problem. That is like a basic level of, and I wouldn't call it obedience. I don't know, obedience has like this negative connotation. But like usually in Algerian we say "tarbiya." Like, for example, like people just sit and they're calm, they listen, and they, yeah. But I'm just talking about, when I think about like obedience in the words, I'm thinking about high school and university. Below, you don't really have what the hell you're saying, like, as a student. So of course you're just gonna learn how you do things first, and then.
I think, don't you think that maybe you're basing this based on your own experience, but the majority of students actually need this kind of methodology?
That's what I was thinking at first, but I found a lot of complaints against this. Maybe not in Algeria, but like from global authors.
Let's talk about Algeria. I don't know because how it's going on in the world, but from my own experience, like, I am against. I think when students complain about obedience, they usually complain about those teachers who want the answer that they have in their minds, even though your own answer is right. But we just didn't phrase it the way they wanted it to be. I mean, those teachers, I'm not even going to talk about them because it's a whole new level that I don't even comprehend. But there is a certain kind of obedience that I think even university students needed, and they actually demand it. If you're, when you go to university, you might want more freedom in the way you learn. That's something that I personally wanted and struggled with. Like, I want to. For example, the teacher is talking. I have my own way of, remember when they say, my own way of taking notes. I don't want to take notes, I don't take notes. And I found it even weird that some teachers were pointing that out. Like, they see you looking at them and they're like, why are you looking at me? You should be writing. And I look, am I in primary school or university? I can memorize this the way I want. I can study the way I want.
How about not showing up?
Wait, let me finish this idea and then we go to another thing. But actually, there are some students, I remember I had one of my favorite teachers and the best teachers that I had, they had the kind of methodology that they make the lesson interesting, especially when it comes to literature or civilization. Like, I just want to hear the ideas. I don't want to sit and the teacher just what's that verb? Like they just tell you what to write and you keep writing, and then you go home and then you memorize the rest, and then you come back and into the exam and just write whatever the teacher gave you. Like I want the teacher to, introduce the lesson, the civilization, whatever to me, and then I go home and I do my own research, because this is something like you can do your own research. It's not like math, like science, like physics. You need I don't know how it works, but you need certain information from your teacher. But I saw that the majority of my classmates didn't like that. They are always wondering, what the hell, this teacher is not going to give us their handouts. They're not going to give us the lesson. I didn't write anything.
Because
they
their
go
mind
look.
is not in the lesson. Because they think that they're just going to hang out and watch movies and do whatever they're going to forget.
No, or probably they are used to, like in primary school, in middle school, in high school, secondary school, we are used to the teacher giving us the whole lesson. We just sit for an hour and the teacher is telling us what to do. That's like just terrible, but some students want that because that's how they are used to it. And I also like, one of the things I remember that teachers in my first year in university kept on repeating is be an independent student. But there was some contradiction, because some teachers like they demand for you to be independent, and I totally understand them and I encourage this idea, but they do not allow you to be independent. And then there are students, like their whole lives they were asked to be dependent to the teacher. The teacher tells you, listen to me, write whatever I write and whatever I say. So, they spend how many years, like 13 years dependent to the teacher, and just as they go to university, they are expected to be independent, and then they have no idea how to deal with that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember, but we used to have that, what is it called? That course called Study Skills in university.
Yeah, I do remember really well.
Damn, I used to hate that subject because mostly it was, unnecessary. I found it useless because there were some lessons like how to take notes, and I was wondering, why am I being taught in university how to take notes? If I made it this far, then I know how to take my own notes. But there are some students who don't know how to do that. There are some students who might, like after they got their baccalaureate exam, they stopped studying for a while, they worked, and then when they go back to university, they lost that rhythm of, how to study. And I think that this subject should be taught in secondary school or middle school. It's not until you reach university and only those students who study, languages learn it. I think it should be taught for everyone.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know why they have their own, like one example of how student is supposed to be, and then, like for example, when we talk about taking notes is good, but there are some people who don't take notes and they do well, right? They have their own. Maybe they were talented in something. Maybe they have their own. Maybe they discovered like a new way, because like taking notes as a lesson. Like when did humans discover that taking notes is good? Just recently. Maybe there is like some other option, some new way that the student does, and it works well more than like taking notes. Why are you supposed to give like a bad mark to the student? They're not gonna make it to the, for example, PhD or something. Maybe that's something that was going to revolutionize the whole educational system. Like maybe, like if you allow more like differences or students with differences to rise and do something at university to get good. Because when I say good mark, why do we need a good mark? In order to pass the year, in order to be in master. Sometimes you have the basic mark in order to pass, but what about your own motivation? You want to I don't know.
To do better.
Yeah, not only that, like just it influences your mood. You want to feel like you're appreciated, like what you said, what you wrote down, the efforts that you made, like just appreciate it. Yeah, that's all. Even though maybe if you get 15 or 10, it doesn't really matter because you're passing the year. For your own sake, maybe you're just gonna do more efforts to explain because the teacher thought that what you said is interesting. So next time you're gonna do more. Because you want to impress the teacher. But if the more you do, like the less you get, then you're just gonna hate university. You're not gonna make it to the top. So who are the people who are going to make it to the top? Who are the people who are going to make it to masters and PhD and then write a thesis to suggest something, to do a research? Who are going to do that? The ones who are getting 15 and 16 and 17. And who are the ones who are getting these? The ones that respond to the teacher. And so it's just a cycle. You're just like copying each other. So you're just going to give a good mark to someone who really looks like you and thinks like you and writes like you. Is there going to be any difference like in 20 years, 30 years? No. You're just going to end up with the same people. So I think that, I don't know, I think at university there should be like constant. That's what Noam Chomsky said like about like a very obedient societies. He said like not only the creativity is decreases there, but there's no innovation. There is a little space of innovation, of doing something differently. Because at the end of the day, everything is relative. You know, things work differently. Just like the way we study now isn't the same like we used to study 50 years ago. And the way we're studying 50 years ago isn't the same as like the Greeks used to study. It's like each civilization had. But if we don't allow like differences to exist, innovation and creativity, then we're going to end up with like this method all our lives. And maybe when something succeeds abroad, we bring it and try it. Why? Like, why do you not trust yourself that you can do? Why do you not trust your people, your students, that they can do something? They can show you something, because at the end of the day, it's just a human brain who can do things differently. So yeah.
You asked me about attendance in universities. That's actually something that I don't have the answer to. I thought about it the whole 3 years that I spent there. Because personally, I wanted so many teachers to not pay attention to that, because there were so many subjects that I could have not attended and got good marks. And there are, but when I think about it, like I try to not think about it when it comes only to my case. So I'm not sure if it's a good idea to not count that. What if no one will come to university? Like, since it's not mandatory, everyone will just go find jobs and or stay outside and hang out with their friends, and then you find the classrooms empty, and then they come to the day of the exam. Probably most of them cheat, and so that's problematic too. So we often like complain about administration and teachers, but students also all have a huge role to why certain things exist in the first place. Like, sometimes I complain about how we're treated as kids, but and then I look at some classmates or some students in general, and I'm like, unfortunately, those are the reason that they treat us this way.
Yeah, that's right.
So I complain about those too. We shouldn't just focus on only one issue.
I think we're running out of time, but it would be cool like to bring an expert or a teacher from university, like to have a conversation about all of that.
Yeah. So probably in the next episodes we will bring someone who's in the field of education. But for now, this is the ending of our episode, the 6th episode of the Scholia Show. Thank you so much for tuning in, and hopefully we'll see you in the next episode.